Hi, it's Chandra from Glow Living. I'm really excited today to be able to interview Peg Haust-Arliss. She's a psychotherapist out of New York who is an anxiety specialist and just wrote a book called Anxiety Breakthrough. So I'm hoping that she gives us some tips on how to manage our own anxiety and break through to living a life of freedom and being able to live to our fullest potential. Now, Peg is an embodiment of what Glow Living is all about. Her lifestyle in all ways shows that she's perfectly aligned with the vision that I have for Glow Living. She has had her own challenges, like with anxiety, and she's found tools and educated herself and gotten all of the information that she's needed to know to overcome and work with anxiety. And she's also been able to find impactful ways of helping other people. So for me, Glow Living really is about doing that. It's about not about being perfect. It's about working with our challenges and growing from them, and then in turn sharing them with the community. So that's exactly what we're going to do today. So stay with me as I interview Peg Haust-Arliss.
Hi, Peg. I'm so excited to have you here on the Glow Living channel. My audience is going to love your book because I feel like it is so perfectly indicative of what I'm trying to represent with the Glow Living lifestyle. So what I wanted to do today was I wanted to share a little bit, or have you share a little bit about your story. And also maybe what we could do is lead them into a couple exercises or something that we can leave them with so that they can feel some success with managing some of their own anxiety symptoms.
Absolutely.
Sounds good. Okay, so why don't we start off by you just telling us a little bit about how you arrived at this point you are today with having this amazing book and with tried and true methods that are working for you in your life and obviously your clients as well.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. And I love to talk about my book because my whole purpose is really to help other people get out of that anxiety prison. So my book is about just that. My book is about getting out of anxiety prison because that's, I don't know if you personally have ever experienced panic attacks or anxiety, but that's what it's like. It can be very debilitating. And so I want to help people break out of that because life is too short, right, to be living that way. So a little bit about me. I'm a holistic psychotherapist. And, but that wasn't always the case. And that has been my dream forever since I was 17 years old. But I always thought that it was just a dream because there was always these beliefs about myself that we all have beliefs about ourselves. And some of them are not very empowering, right, to our spirit and can keep us in a prison in a sense. So beginning in kindergarten, I talk about it in my book, I had this incident happen that started my anxiety prison. And I won't get into the details of that, but it turned into a fear of not being able to wake up and just have my life, my independent life, and do the things I wanted to do because there was a belief I'm not smart enough. There was a belief I'm not capable enough. So these are the kinds of beliefs that can sometimes hold us back from living our lives fully. So I had this dream of being a therapist since I was 17 and just kind of put it away because that's for other people. That's not for me. And then it was various life stages. When I turned 30, that's when I started to really think about, I got to do it or not, right? And I started to actually have dreams at night. Have you ever had like dreams at night that are messages for you? Has it ever happened? Or maybe your listeners have experienced that? I just kept having this dream over and over again that I was walking through my high school and I was crying in the halls. And I was like, okay, I got to go. I got to pursue my dream. I have to do it. It's now or never. So, and I had a public speaking phobia, by the way, I should say that. That's what always prevented me from going to college in the first place and pursuing my dream, is because I had this severe public speaking phobia that started in kindergarten. And I didn't know how I was going to go to college. I just knew I had to go. So I went, and I did it in very little baby steps. I went to a non-credit course just to see if I could sit in the room and not run out screaming. You know, you might not, for people listening who have anxiety attacks, this will be very relatable. But if you've never had panic attacks, and, you know, you might be like, what? You know, that's weird, right? You can't sit in the classroom. So it's very, it can be very scary and very debilitating. So when I started to go to college, I never had panic attacks per se, but I did when I started to really do really well in college, like I had never thought I could. So I learned a lesson through writing my book, what my anxiety was really about. And it was every time I wanted to grow, and I was starting to grow, that's when my anxiety would come and knock on my door and say, oh, no, you cannot shine so brightly, right? So there was a huge message there. And so my anxiety became debilitating to the point where I couldn't travel or drive a car or go shopping or go dancing, which I love to dance, and I couldn't even do that. So it just spiraled into this very debilitating thing. So then I got through all that, and I talk about it in my story. You can read my story. It's all in detail. I finally got through it and became the anxiety specialist I am today. So I never planned on becoming an anxiety specialist, but that road took me there, right? I originally wanted to work with battered women because there's an element of my story to that. And that was my original intention when I was 17. So I definitely have that. I still love to do that as well. So that's what I do now. I'm a specialist with anxiety because I've been there, and I love what I do. Oh, and yes, there was a time I could not have done this. Sat here and talked to you like this would be completely out of the question. So
people don't understand how hard it is. You know, there's so many videos on YouTube these days, and people think it's so easy. There are lots of people that make it look easy, and it's not, because, you know, we are driven to share things, but we have to share them, you know, in a way that's so public that it can put that barrier in front of you. Like, what do I have to offer that's unique? Or, you know, a lot of limiting beliefs can come up that can definitely shut you down. And I think that might be part of what you're referring to, you know, when you're saying you had a challenge with allowing yourself to shine, is these little self-doubt messages can come up. And I've certainly had those as well. And I think that's probably why I ended up naming my company Glow, is because it's so much about allowing ourselves to shine or glow and reach our full potential and express ourselves fully in such an authentic way. But yet it actually is, it can be really hard to do because of those limiting beliefs. Like, I wonder if back when you were in kindergarten, when you were treated a certain way at the time of sharing, if that had gone differently in that moment, if everybody seemed really supportive and about your share, would that have changed your belief at that time about yourself? Or would eventually something else happen and those beliefs would manifest anyway? Do you have an idea about that?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, because your listeners might not know that in kindergarten, how that started was show and tell. And I had no public speaking phobia until show and tell. And what happened was, I was inside that circle and I said, hi, my name is Peggy Haust and I'm from Tyre. And then everybody started to just roar in laughter. And if that had gone differently, and this is an important point, and one that I teach my clients, is that was my perception. That was how I saw it. But I don't know if that was really the case. You know, they most likely were just laughing with me, not at me. So that is one of the first things that I teach my clients is that difference between our perceptions and what they really mean. So if I had perceived it differently, yes, I think that would have been a completely different start to my journey, right? But because I perceived it that way, it took me down one road. If I perceived it another way, it would have, I think, definitely took me down a different road.
Which is so.
But it's that perception. What's that?
It's so empowering to think that we have those choices, but at a young age, we don't have we don't have awareness, right? We don't have the awareness that, oh, we have these multiple roads. We just kind of think what we think and go down that road. And little do we know that it's establishing a core belief about ourselves and from that can affect us for the rest of our life until we have to consciously change it. So I wanted to bring that up because I know that one of your first steps in your book for people who are challenged with anxiety is just having a awareness about what is considered anxiety that's real and what is maybe well, I should say justified anxiety versus anxiety that maybe you can change or you can look at differently if you reframe it.
Exactly. So I talk about necessary versus unnecessary anxiety. Yep. So necessary anxiety is, okay, so to determine the difference, you ask yourself, is there clear and present danger? So that's the purpose of anxiety. The purpose of anxiety is to alert you to danger. So it's a great thing to have. We have to have that. And so ask yourself, is there clear present danger? No. Okay, then we'll rule out that. The second purpose, is there anything you need to prepare for, right? Or do you have to study for that test? Do you have to prepare for that interview? If the answer is yes, then prepare for it. And when you do prepare for it, your anxiety will naturally come down. If the answer is no, there's nothing you need to prepare for, then it is unnecessary anxiety. And it might just be that pattern that you've been doing, that habit that you've been doing so often, the habit of anxiety, that is your go-to. I call that your go-to emotion. It's in your unconscious mind, and it's right there. It's your first reaction because that's what you've been doing too often. So unnecessary versus necessary anxiety, knowing and having the awareness of the difference.
Yeah, I think I love the idea of that awareness because I think that sometimes we just get on autopilot and we think what we think and we just accept our thoughts as ourselves in a sense. And I interviewed another author named Mary Lore about managing thoughts. She's an expert on managing your thoughts. And it was just wonderful for me to see the connections between your book and her book related to this awareness idea and being able to know that, okay, our thoughts are serving up something that is there for a reason. It could be for protection. In the case of anxiety, if it's a true reason to be concerned or alarmed, then it's giving you that signal or or sounding that alarm for really beneficial reason. Whereas if it's because of a limiting thought, then you can change that thought and say, okay, thought, thanks for serving that up. I know that you're doing that to keep me safe, but you know what? I'm an adult now. That was based on when I was younger and maybe not as aware of, that this ultimately will hold me back from opportunity. So I'm going to, thank you for that, but I got it from here. I'm still going to step into this as an opportunity for myself because the consequences are too great if I don't.
Exactly. Very well put. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I think having that first step of awareness is really great, but I also needed to bring up something we talked about on one time on a phone call, which was for those people who are concerned that anxiety might actually be a disease or a condition. And you described this really well in the book. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to help those people reframe and see anxiety for what it is. Can you tell them a little bit about how you view anxiety?
Oh, yes, that's great. So the label of anxiety. When you are struggling with panic attacks and anxiety and you don't know what to do, you naturally go to your doctor, and your doctor, rules out all medical conditions, and that's a responsible doctor. They have to do that. You have to rule out anything medical before you can assume it is anxiety. So that's a doctor's job. And once they've ruled out, they've gotten the blood work, they took EKGs, right? They made sure you don't have a heart condition. They make sure they don't, because many medical conditions can show up in certain psychological symptoms. So you have to rule those out. But once that's ruled out, then you get a label, and you're told you have anxiety and that there's nothing you can do about it. You can do medication, and you're just going to have to learn to manage it. You'll probably have this the rest of your life, and you'll just have to learn to manage it. So this drives me crazy. I hate this. And this is what happened to me, because I would go counseling, and they would say, have you tried meds? And I'm like, I don't want to try meds. And this is a very common thing too, I see with myself and a lot of my clients. It's one of our fears is to take medications. I was scared to take meds. And so the label, having a professional label you with anxiety, it's so disempowering, because now you feel like, well, you might feel relieved because what you're experiencing has a name. But then you might feel like, oh no, this isn't in my mind. What are you talking about? This is bigger than that. So, but having that label is just it can affect you, because now you think that's who you are. And I noticed a shift. I'll hear people say, my anxiety, or that's the way I've always been, and that's just who I am. And that language and those language patterns I listen for, because I want to know how ingrained it is, and how, because the more ingrained it is, the more habitual it is. It starts to become you instead of separate from you. So one of the things I like to do is explain that to my clients. It's not who you are. It is an emotion. It's not a disorder. I don't like to label and use it. I don't like to call it an anxiety disorder, because I don't believe it's a disorder. I think it's an emotion. It's a habit that we get into, and one that we do so often that it then feels like we don't have any control. But actually, we have all the control. Does that explain it?
It does. And actually, it leads me perfectly into talking about the initial dis-ease in the body that you can experience when anxiety starts to come up. And I'm curious from you whether, if you pay attention to those signals and you identify what those are for you, whether you can head it off at the pass, by realizing, okay, I'm going into this anxiety emotion, and here is, maybe have some kind of go-to way of looking at it, or a way of changing your thoughts, so that you can break this, what you were calling a habitual pattern. So can you talk a little bit about these symptoms that arise in the body, and then maybe any tools for, trying to head it off or change course, so that you don't go, get further down the road with the negative cycle?
Yes. So the first thing is, I think, let's talk about the symptoms. So you might feel a little shaky, your heart might be racing or pounding. You might feel like you can't catch your breath. And hard to breathe. You might and you might feel a little dizzy. And what happens is, when you start to feel these symptoms, then you start to scare yourself with your thoughts, like, oh no, here it comes. And then as soon as you do that, oh no, here it comes, then you just triggered I like to call it a fire alarm. You've triggered your fire alarm. And so when you've triggered your fire alarm by these scary thoughts, oh my gosh, here it comes, what am I going to do? I got to get out of here. Now your body symptoms start to increase even more. And then when your body symptoms start to increase even more, then your thoughts get even scarier. Oh gosh, see, I really am in danger. I got to do something about this, until you're in a full-blown panic attack. So that's the cycle. And it becomes the fear of the fear. So you might have a little symptom, and then your thoughts like, oh my God, what's that? Which increase your body symptoms, which increase your scary thoughts. Now you're in a full-blown panic attack. Okay. And when you're on the highway, when you're in, trying to do something, that's not good. So here's the mistake people make, though. We try to stop it and change our thought, and that's okay. If you're on the thruway, you want to do that, right? You want to distract yourself. You want to just distract yourself, turn on the radio, take a big deep breath, and get yourself, pull over if you have to, because it's not safe to be on the road when you're feeling that way. But one of the mistakes we make, though, is that by doing that, by distracting ourselves, by changing the thought, by stopping the thought, we're kind of telling ourselves there's something really to be afraid of. And there isn't. So it's those body symptoms that we have to understand they're not dangerous. Those body symptoms aren't dangerous. But by trying to stop them and change them and calm yourself down, it's kind of in a way saying that there is something dangerous and that you have to calm down. So I like to also talk about plowing through that. I'm feeling all those symptoms right now. And that was my problem. I wanted to stop them and say, I'll do that when I don't feel like this. See, that's the difference. And what I really learned is you can't wait, or else you won't do anything. You'll stay in your prison. So I'm feeling that right now. I'm feeling my heart, and I get a little sweaty on my hands, right? But it's how I frame it. I'm not nervous, I'm excited. Right? I'm not nervous, I'm excited. It's the meaning that we give things that changes everything. So yes, you can stop your thoughts. You can calm yourself down a little bit, but that can't be your altogether go-to. There has to come a time when you say, this isn't dangerous. The body symptoms, it's just my fire alarm. I set off with my thoughts, but there's no fire. And again, that's determining necessary versus unnecessary anxiety.
So when you talk about entering that panic attack, is that the same thing as what you were talking about earlier in the book about fight, flight, and freeze, that you're putting your body in a state of either fight, flight, and freeze? And is that the same thing as a panic attack?
Yeah, so when you trigger your fire alarm, that's your fight, flight, or freeze. So this is a natural mechanism that we all have. It's our safety. We have this hardwired safety mechanism. Thank goodness that we have it, because it protects us from danger. So if in the Neanderthal days, we come up against a tiger, we either have to, that's when the adrenaline, the fight, flight, or freeze response is going to kick in. The amygdala is signaled that there's danger. So you either have to fight the tiger, flee the tiger, or freeze, right? And so that's a very necessary thing to have. What happens now, not a tiger, I hope, unless you're picking on one in captivity, and I don't want you to do that. But now you might be, being chased by a mugger or anything really dangerous. That's when you're going to set that natural, hard-driven response. And that's a good thing. I mean, if your child's being attacked, you're there. The problem is you're setting that off when there is nothing happening. That's the problem, okay? That's why it feels like there's really something wrong with you. But there isn't anything wrong with you. The only thing that's happening is somehow, some way, you have just triggered your fire alarm. Because if you woke up from a dream, a nightmare, or if your fire alarm really did go off in your house in the middle of the night, you wouldn't be freaked out by those symptoms. You wouldn't be freaked out by them. It would make complete sense. You would, move into action, what you had to do. And then if you realized that it was just a fire alarm set off, then there was no fire, what would happen? Your body would naturally calm itself down. Why? Because you just told yourself, I'm safe. right? And if you woke up from a nightmare, you might have the same feelings in your body. But then when you realize it's a nightmare and then you say, I'm safe, your body starts to come down. So when you're having a panic attack out of the blue, it doesn't make sense. So you don't calm your body down because you think there's something wrong. So one of the first things I tell people is, number one, you got to be aware of that. There is no danger. You just set your fire alarm off. That's all this is. That's it. You set your fire alarm off. And then we talk about how you did that. It's always a thought, by the way, unconscious or conscious. You might not be able to know what that thought is right then and there, but it's definitely in kind of therapy approach. We'd say there is always a thought first, but you might not be conscious of the thought. Okay. But to know that, then you can say, okay, I know what this is. This is just my anxiety. I just set my fire alarm off. That's all it is. Okay. Notice it, move on. Notice it, move on. Notice it, move on. That's the key. Okay. This is what we do instead. Notice it. What's wrong with me? Something's wrong. Fire alarm keeps going. Okay.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And it actually, it reminds me of, when you're talking about, so bringing up, actually, it reminds me of what Tony Robbins says about incantations versus incantations. It's coming up with something that you can tell yourself in place of your other thoughts, something you can say over and over when these kind of things happen. So, it could be, I'm safe, yes. Like, or keep going, or it's just a fire alarm, whatever it is for you as a person that helps you remember that these are just thoughts. And from our training, the shared strategic intervention training, we learned so much about how what we focus on and the thoughts that come up for us elicit emotions. And we often have go-to emotions. And those are the habitual patterns of going to those same emotions over and over, but that there's actually a really huge, wide variety of emotions that we can draw forth when we're conscious about it. And we can say, well, I don't want to draw forth the emotions that make me feel like I'm in a panic and I'm unsafe. I want to draw forth the emotions that make me feel calm and safe. And so we can do that through these incantations by having them ready to go. When that body gets triggered, we start to feel these symptoms, we go to our incantation and go, okay, thanks body for sending us the signals we're not safe. We're actually safe today. And Tony calls that your antidote emotion, right? Your antidote. And so I ask my clients, what do you want to feel instead? And have them identify what their antidote emotion is, right? And so we'll work with that. All right, if that's what you want to feel instead, how do you get yourself in that state? Because again, I teach them how they're getting themselves in that panic state. And then it's, how do you want to get yourself into the antidote state? And then they start to realize that, wow, I have control, and I didn't realize it. I think that's a huge aha for everyone to know that we have control, more control than we think we do, when we learn to manage our thoughts, when we learn to manage our state through what we focus on and the emotions that come up as a result of focusing on those things. And that was actually one of the most powerful tools that I learned with the strategic intervention program. And I know they relate to it as the triad. And here you and I are developing on that and applying it to specific areas of personal growth. You with anxiety, me with depression or relationship issues and other things. And I know that you coach on all kinds of other things as well. So I think it's such a powerful tool that can be applied to so many things, and feeling that sense of empowerment that we do have some control, that we're not just victims to these, things that come over us it's when you exercise it, it's a wonderful thing to know. And once you do it once, you can do it again.
It's life-changing, literally. It is. It's getting, like I talk about, it's getting out of that prison. And realizing you're free, because we always have the key. We just don't know we have it.
Well, I think that is actually the key, is knowing that you have the key. I think a lot of people have it, they're looking for it outside of themselves, and it makes so much sense, because
Yes.
it seems like it's in there, but there's so many tools for finding it. I think working with coaches and listening to guided meditations and journaling, and there's just so many wonderful tools for us to help connect with those things inside of ourselves that are available. That is one of the exciting things that I have planned for Glow Living, and interviewing guests like yourself to help people just feel completely armed with the tools to get out of prison, to, really live this empowered life. Because there are so many things, from anxiety to depression to negative self-talk to, all these things that just are holding people back. And if you and I and these other coaches that we know who have been impactful in our lives can instruct on this, I think that one person at a time, we're going to make a huge difference, and it's going to have a ripple effect on the entire world. And that's what really gets me jazzed up, is thinking that we can literally double people's happiness through these tools and make the world such a better place to live in as a result of that. So that's my higher vision.
Yes, mine too. Yes. And I think that's how and why we got connected. For sure. Yes.
Well, that is one thing that I want to make sure that everybody watching understands, is that, you and I we studied some of the similar things, but we didn't actually study together, and we found each other. And what a wonderful blessing that was. And when I read your book in its entirety, I saw so many things that were in there that I resonated with. And I said, you know what, Peg is living the life of a glow living glow getter, is what I call it. You call it a go girl, and I call it a glow getter, or a glow girl. And I think that we're talking the same language. And
Yes.
What I love about the book is that it is anxiety breakthrough. It is you telling your story. It's providing real tools that work, like some of the things that we're talking about here. But then you also have the back part of the book, which is really more about lifestyle and how to live, from the food to exercise to, all these different areas that Glow Living is about. That I thought, she's a perfect example of what someone that is going, the tribe that I'm calling forth for Glow Living is all about. Because you've had a challenge. We all have challenges. You've learned things to grow from that. You still face some challenges, but that you don't let it hold you back. You find ways, whether it be through getting education or sharing and connecting with others, or what, trying things out on yourself to get to a point where you become enough of an expert to know that you can make a difference, and that you're called to do that. That is what this is about, is, also about contributing beyond ourselves and taking our challenges, and like you said in the book, turning them into blessings and using them to really help other people. And that is where the blessing is knowing that we have some secret sauce, something there to make a difference.
Absolutely.
So I really thank you for all that you're sharing. And I just want to let the audience know that there is so much more in the book than what we've covered. And the book is available on Peg's website, which is peghaust.com, HAUST.com. It's also available on Amazon. Now, I did notice on your website that you have the ability to, or they have the ability to order autograph copies. Is that still available?
Yes, so it's right on my website. And so if you want an autographed copy, click on that. And then there's a link to Amazon, and click on that either way.
That sounds great. I do highly recommend this book to anyone that wants to learn these tools and improve their lives. And whether you have just slight anxiety or full-blown panic attacks, you're going to get something out of this book, and I hope that you do check it out. What I'm going to also invite you to do is keep track of us on glowliving.com, because I hope to have Peg back as a guest, and possibly running through some very specific exercises and just kind of more how-to kind of stuff, so that you can have personal experiences in your body, in your experience with this material, to take you to the next level. So we want to invite you to start with gaining more awareness about anxiety and how you can, take these tools to really impact you, and consider the book as a resource for that, because it has exercises and things that you can do to really have it apply to yourself in person. And just follow us so that we can support you in your journey to live to your highest potential. So thank you so much, Peg, for everything that you've shared today. I know that it's been long in coming to educate yourself and have so many experiences of your own to share. And it takes a lot of courage to have the vulnerability that you shared in the book with your own personal story. And I hope that it inspires other people to share their stories and share the tools that are out there, because as a community, I totally believe in sharing to support each other. And I think that's how we're going to get to our highest.
Me too. Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you so much, because your words of wisdom are so valuable to me, and I just truly appreciate you being willing to come on the show and fight your own anxiety to be here and know that you're not alone. And of course, I know you wanted to make sure other people know that they're not alone in this as well, and that's why you wrote the book.
That's right. You're not alone, and you're not broken. Okay. That's one thing I want to make sure everybody knows. So start living.
Absolutely. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. We're signing off.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.